Ja, einen wunderschönen guten Abend, liebe Coaches, zur heutigen International Coaches Clinic mit Coach Riley Hill von der University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Coach Hill wird heute über die Running Backs sprechen und darüber, wie man einen Running Back entwickelt, der sich sowohl im Inside als auch im Outside Zone Laufspiel zu Hause fühlt, welche Techniken es dafür braucht, welche Reads es dafür braucht. Und ich bin wirklich gespannt, dass wir dieses spezielle Thema hier heute abdecken können und leite jetzt direkt über zu Coach Hill. So Coach, it's up to you. I'm excited for your talk.
Awesome, guys. I'm pumped too. Feel free, guys, during this presentation to drop your questions in the chat at any time. That's really kind of where I make this interactive. Coach Hill, I coach at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater right now, which is really, it's state of Wisconsin. We're north of the country. But the film I'll be showing from was my previous school, which is Carroll University, which is in the same state, probably about an hour away. But in 2018 at Carroll University, where I was at, I coached the offensive line, and then I oversaw all of our running backs and offensive line and tight ends. Our inside and outside zone averaged 4.5 yards a carry combined, and then on outside zone we were actually at 7.5 yards a carry. But really today, what I want to talk about is really just the teaching progression about your running backs in inside and outside zone during your installs and during your film session. So there's a lot of really good drills and things like that. I didn't have the tape from the drills, so I didn't want to include any drill stuff in here, but I will be willing to talk about some of the drills that we did. But really my presentation will focus on just some of that teaching and some of the small details that I think are really, really important in coaching your running backs through the zone scheme. Our running backs are really undercoached across football when it comes to just general coaching most of the time. We kind of let those guys be athletes instead of really giving them the finer points. But when we took our athletes and we gave them a lot of the finer details and they could see the game for what it was, our running game exploded. And so I was really excited about that. So I'm also going to talk about a lot of the crossover teaching between inside and outside zone, because at the end of the day, it is a zone scheme. Overall, your aiming points are just going to be different, and so there is some crossover teaching that I think is really important as well. And then how to help your running backs understand that their role in zone schemes overall. I think their stuff is so important when it comes to understanding how they fit and what their responsibility in the zone game is. So that's kind of what I want to cover today. I got some film. I will talk about some other things. Like I said, I can go forever. And so just kind of cut me off at any point if you guys want, or if you have a question or anything like that. So the first thing that I'll talk about is kind of the 5 keys that we talk with our running backs about in zone. And those 5 things are to make sure you understand who your read keys are, to understand what your path is and why that's so important, to make sure that our hips and shoulders are always on our path through the mesh with the quarterback, and then how to press in the line of scrimmage, and then understanding to make the cut at the line of scrimmage, never before. And those 5 things are really, really important to talk about your running backs on both inside and outside zone, because it's so critical to how the play is going to be accomplished, because the running back's job is so important in zone. And again, like I said, we just don't talk about that enough. Everybody wants to talk about the scheme for the offensive line, where they need to fit, what the box looks like, but it's so important for the running back to understand what their job is in zone. And that's to understand what their read key is, just to make sure that they understand their path, make sure that their shoulders and hips are on that path through the mesh, and then to make sure that they press the line of scrimmage, get into the line of scrimmage before they make those cuts. So the first thing I'll start talking about, I'm a little bit out of order with those 5 keys, but the first thing I wanted to talk about is talking about the flow and the path and the shoulder. So I'm going to bring our aiming points and our shoulders and the importance of those things. Sorry guys, I didn't realize that my presentation got cut off right there in that picture. But in zone, it's all about creating flow and creating splits in the box, whether it's inside or outside zone. But most people don't understand that how important your running back's shoulders and hips are in creating that split and in creating those creases in the box. And so your shoulders, one of the things is when you're coaching your running backs, you should be able to stop the film right as the ball snaps. So this is a really good picture. This is why I wanted to put this in here, is you should be able to stop the film and you can judge on how good of a zone run that you could have depending on the back shoulders. Now, I know there's a lot of other variables. The D tackle could shed the guard, but usually if everything just goes average, right, and there's no spectacular thing that happens, you know, with a picture like this on outside zone, you should say this is a 4-yard run play. And the reason is the back's shoulders and hips match the hips and the shoulders of the offensive line. That's going to be so important as you teach zone to your running back. So there's outside zone where he's getting out wide, or downhill and inside zone, creating that flow and putting the second level defenders where they want them to go. You know, the NFL, I always say the best running back to watch in the NFL for zone schemes is Le'Veon Bell. You know, he's a running back for the Jets right now. Just YouTube some of his stuff. And you just watch, he'll stop his feet and he'll literally stop all of his momentum behind his offensive line once he presses the line of scrimmage, and he'll wait for the linebackers to fit him, and he'll make a nice cut somewhere else. And that kind of patience can only be done because he stays true to his path and helps his offensive line out. So the thing that gets cut off right here is the back's job is to be the delivery person for his offensive line. He wants to deliver the second level to his double teams. Or, you know, if you're just all horizontal blocking with your offensive line, he wants to deliver them on those angles. And so this is a really good picture for us from a couple of years ago. You can see that the safety and the Mike linebacker are going to match the path of the back. And because his hips and shoulders have opened up, we are going to get them to move in the direction of everybody else. And so that's going to be really, really important for us. So that's the first thing I always want to talk about when we talk about zone is the path of the back, because it's so important. Now for us, and I want to make sure I put this out there, for us, a lot of the stuff you'll see was from the pistol. So the back will be at 7, the quarterback will be at 4.5. Some guys are in gun. Gun is a little bit different, which I'll make sure I touch on it and talk about, because I think the gun and zone running is a little bit different. If you are under center and you run outside zone and you run inside zone, this stuff still matches what we did in the pistol. So even if you're under center, this is still exactly what you want your picture to look like, through the quarterback receiving the ball, reverse pivoting out and getting back to his running back and running flat. Peyton Manning and those guys, when he was with the Colts, they were awesome at it too. Edgerrin James. But just a really, really good picture here of creating the flow. So here's going to be a clip of this. Again, sorry guys. Again, just wanting to make sure that we can see as we get to the film right here, and I just pause it, just the look here. This is just a really, really nice look for our back and our back's path and the shoulders of the offensive line. You know, it's not going to be a great play, but, you know, here we're going to miss. The right guard does it. Everybody's great. Again, if we just average, if the guard gets a little bit of a better piece, back does a nice job knifing up in there, you know, it's still a good play. But if the right guard gets maybe a little bit of a better piece here, the back gets vertical, the shoulders are great, and this could be a really big play. Which I think is great, right? You want it to be everything's pretty normal. You could give yourself a nice chance at a chunk play. So just a good look here for the shoulders of the back, the shoulders of the offensive line. Here we're going to be more downhill with zone scheme. And when we match it here, now you guys will probably see this left guard, his shoulders are a little turned, his hips are a little open. I don't really like that. I was coaching the offensive line this year, guys, so I take full responsibility for that. But you can see this double team right here. That's what we're matching. Downhill, downhill, downhill. He's going to be a little bit of an angle. This is going to be a zone read play, so we're going to read this defensive end. But you can see us just getting downhill and then bringing these two linebackers right into where we want them to be. Same with that last clip with the other linebackers. We're bringing them where we want them to be. And that's really important because as the back gets through here, he gets up in there, we're delivering them to offensive line. We get kind of lucky because we get a stunt on the left side of the play here. We were ready for that stunt. That's why the guard doesn't get surprised by it. But I think one of those things that's really important is just the back to be able to match the offensive line to bring and deliver the second level, because the offensive line, they understand that they have to stay on their path. Even though they may have particular people that they need to go to, they still have to stay on that track. And the back's job is to bring that second level to that offensive line so that they don't have to get off their track, because you want to keep their shoulders where they need to go. If you're getting downhill in zone, inside zone, you want your offensive line shoulders to stay as square as possible for as long as possible. And then outside zone, you want to keep them on that horizontal path as long as possible. So those things are really, really critical for our running backs. Any questions on any of that stuff so far, guys? I don't know if I have the chat up or anything, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, quick question, Coach.
Yeah.
For me, it's not completely clear what the main difference. Like, what are you attacking on inside zone and outside zone? Because like on outside zone, you said that the back is turning his hips and shoulders. I understand that because you want the reaction from the linebacker so that they shoot out as well. So it's a better angle for the O-line. But here it seems like on inside zone, you're taking the A gap, kind of the guard. So it's A to B. And outside zone is more outside tackle for you. Can you just explain briefly how you run those two concepts?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to get into some more of the details later. I'm going to talk about inside zone, some details, some keys and things like that, and outside zone. But what I'll just talk about is for inside zone, if we're running inside zone left, which we're doing here, we are backside hip of the center, backside A to front side A to get out the back door, if that makes sense. So we have a read key, and our read key is the first interior defensive lineman on his path. Okay, so I'll just stick to this to inside zone here, and then I'll talk about outside zone. So his path is downhill at the center. That D lineman is his read key. And his read key is through the mesh point. He's going to stay square. If his read key plays over the top into that A gap, he just stays downhill and he goes to the backside. If it kind of gets hung up and he's not really sure, he's just going to press downhill into that center. Sorry, guys, I got all kind of lines going on. He's just going to press downhill into that center. And by that time, you should have a much clearer read, right? But what I always tell our running backs is your read key should tell you what he's going to do through the mesh with the quarterback. So for inside zone, again, downhill, we're going to be A to backside cutback. And so here, automatically, before the back even gets the ball, the nose guard here goes backside A. So the running back knows that he's going to go front side A before he even gets the ball, right? So now his job is to press into the line of scrimmage, right? Not go and cut too early, because he wants to bring this linebacker into that guard and this linebacker, right, into the offensive, into the tackle here. So if he's too quick through the mesh, the tackle's never going to get there, and this backside linebacker or -1 or the will linebacker, or whatever you guys call him, is going to beat him over the top. So that's the mesh. That's the downhill part for our inside zone. Now, if I go back to the original one, to the first clip here for outside zone, and again, guys, if I'm talking too fast, I'm going to cover all this again a little bit later too, but this is a good question. I probably could have started with this. So his path now for the running back is the end man on the line of scrimmage for outside zone, but we are still his read is that in man, the last guy for us, his in man, last guy with his hand in the ground. We're not going to read stand-ups because stand-ups in a 3-down, they're most likely contained and they want to push everything back in. So we're going to read that guy, but his read is still B to A, then to C, if that makes sense. So it's bang, bend, then bounce. All right. And so you guys may have heard that in zone running before. You know, you talk about the triple Bs with your running backs. You talk about banging it up first, you know, then you get to the bend, which is to the backside, right? And then you can get to the bounce, which is any sort of outside read. Sorry, that's an in there, guys. But so we want to bang, bend, bounce on outside zone. So you guys can see this here. This is his read key. If he goes out, it's a nice, easy bang, right? Then it goes to another read, but I'll talk about that later. So he's getting driven out. He doesn't want, this tackle doesn't get a clean reach on him. He's kind of moving. That's a really long way for him to go. So he sees his tackle's butt and his numbers. So he's going to go ahead and bang this thing up and through. Does that answer your question a little bit? Again, I'm going to get into this a little bit more detail too when I talk specifics for the play, but that's a really good question that I should probably start with. So that's why the shoulders are so important and the hips are so important. It's because he's setting up everybody on that path so he can make a really clear read through that path. And again, you guys can see, this is why I talk about path and those 5 keys. I talk about path through the mesh point with your quarterback, because you guys can see here, just like that last play, the running back, by the time he clamps right here, now he's got the ball. This is a really clear read for him. It's really clear. He doesn't need to overthink it. It's clear now he can go be an athlete. That's so important. It's we're going to give the ball to our best kids, our best athletes, just giving them simple keys to make it easier. So you take the guessing out of it. You just let them go play, if that makes sense. Great question. Any follow-up question to that I didn't answer?
No, everything
Cool.
answered.
So then I'll show you guys one more clip here just about path. Again, you guys can see outside zone. It's going to be that hip because we're running outside zone left. And so you can see his hips and shoulders, again, are going to be turned. And even before he receives the ball from the quarterback, his read is super clear because this defensive end is going to go way out here. And then look at the linebacker and the safety and the backside linebacker match his path and deliver them perfectly. Now, I take full responsibility, excuse me, guys, because this tackle, he was mine. He should be up to here. Guard has a great angle. Center's working. Backside angle's clear here. I'll talk more about this backside block too as we get later on about why we did that. But you guys can see it's just a really clean clip of why the back's shoulders and hips are so important at the beginning of the play. And then again, pressing that aiming point through the mesh point, which is really important. Any questions on any of that stuff, guys, before I really talk about the next big overarching thing? And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about specifics for inside zone and outside zone as we get going here.
No
Cool.
questions. No questions in the chat now.
All right, cool. All right, so the next thing I'll talk about, and this is really important, I just had to throw this in there as I was putting this presentation together. Again, I talked about outside zone in another presentation that this is super important for your running backs, is getting vertical. Best juke move, the best cut, the best anything that your running backs can do is once they make a decision, once they read a key, once they get in and they know where they're going, is they need to get vertical, run. Speed is the best move in any zone play. In any zone play, speed is the best move. Big plays, chunk plays happen when your running backs stick their foot in the ground and they just go. Because then they run through arm tackles, they've done a really nice job, if they stay on their path, to displacing the second level. And when they stick their foot in the ground and get vertical on it, they run through arm tackles and they score. And those are big, big plays. So to give you guys an example, I got an example a little bit later to show you guys what it looks like. But I want you guys to anytime you're talking to your running backs and you talk about all this kind of stuff, just emphasize how important it is to get vertical once you have identified where you want to go. Because that's where the big plays are. Again, I think there's some really good YouTube clips of some running backs from Oregon University a couple years ago, University of Oregon, that you could just YouTube and you just watch those guys stick their feet in the ground and get vertical, and they score from long ways away. And I think that's really, really important. And again, I'll talk about more of that. So now I'm going to kind of break specifics down a little bit from a running back perspective about inside and outside zone. So I'll start with inside zone first. In an inside zone, you want your running back to get downhill, again, to stress the inside linebackers to the double teams of the offensive line. If you're not creating double teams and you're just moving on zone pass, it's the same concept. You want to bring the second level to where they want to go. The running back's job is to bring linebackers to the offensive line. I talk about setting the hook. If anybody goes fishing or anything like that, you want to really bait those linebackers nice and easy, and then you want to kind of snap them into those double teams. And so that's going to be really, really important, is to make sure that those guys understand that. And then for you guys as coaches, when you're coaching your running backs, is have a clear idea of where you would ideally want the play to hit, if that makes sense. Do you want it to be a front side play? Do you want it to get out the front side A gap? Or do you want it to be a cutback play? Do you want it to get out the back side? Because that's going to be super important as you teach your running backs how you want them to read their key and then where their path should start. For us at Wisconsin Whitewater, it's a little bit different than how we taught it at my last institution. In my last institution, we really kind of wanted them to hit the front side A gap. But here at Wisconsin Whitewater, we really are teaching more of that bend. We want them to get to the back side. So that's going to be really important for you guys as you guys teach your running backs, because then you can determine, do you want their path to be to the front side hip of the center? Do you want it to be the back side hip of the center? How do you want them to set it up? And so for you guys as coaches, I think that's really important to have a clear idea of that, because then you can set the read key for your running backs, which should be the first interior defensive lineman on their path. So if you're going to set their path to the front side A gap, should be that front side D tackle. If you're going to set it downhill at the center, should be that backside defensive tackle. Any questions on that kind of on that stuff, guys? Cool. Go on.
Yes, one more question. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Come on.
Yeah. So you're reading basically on 3-4. You're reading the nose, right?
It depends. It depends on the front. So if you get a 4 down front, you're going to read one of those 2 interior guys, depending on where your path is. But if you get a 3 down front, yeah, we're going to read the nose guard. Yeah. We're going to read the nose guard. And so that's going to be really important on the front. But again, once you've established where your path is, it doesn't matter which front it is, it becomes really clear. And so
and then would you say it depends on what the nose does in a 3-4? Then it's an A to A bounce, A to A gap?
Yeah, then it'll be your A to A gap to your bend or bounce, depending on what he does. Mm-hmm. So I'll show you some clips here. So this is actually, hopefully this answers your question a little bit, is as you press your double teams, you can tell your running back if then, right? So you can give them a really clear definition of, if he goes this way, then you go the opposite way, right? It becomes really, really clear once you make your read key, because your aiming point for your running back is so important. So let's go ahead. I'll go and hop in the film here and show you guys a couple clips. So for us, hopefully hopefully my clips didn't get messed up. Yeah. So as you guys can see here, we're going to actually run inside zone left, right? So our offensive line is, everybody's going to move left here. scheme just because for this game we actually moved him out. He's running like a flat route to the sideline. We're going to read this backside defensive end. So, but our aiming point for our running back is the backside hip of the center. So therefore his read is going to be this D tackle. See how he's kind of the closest one. If you were to go ahead and put yourself in a helmet, right, that's going to be the guy. Now, what we want to do is we want to press this double team, and we want to say, if he goes this way, you go that way, right? So you can be it's really that simple when you talk about read keys. Why I think it's so important you can teach your read keys in an if and then scenario. So if he goes this way, you go the other way. When in doubt, press your double team, right? So therefore you make it really, really simple for your best athletes on the field. He goes this way, you go opposite way. If you're not sure, press downhill because it will become clear by the time you get there, right? You still want to press downhill. So cut me off at any time, but this running back is going to press downhill. He needs to press the line of scrimmage through the mesh, square shoulders, square hips to get these two inside linebackers downhill into their double teams. But his eyes, he's not concerned about looking at those guys. He's just concerned about this guy. And if this guy goes this way, well, then he goes that way. If this guy gets blocked really well and that double team gets hip to hip and they're pushing, then he can just go ahead and press and run out the front side here, right? Because he can just follow his aiming point. So I'll let the film run, and hopefully if you're not sure, this will make it a little bit clear. So here he's going to press downhill. You see, because his shoulders and his hips are downhill through the mesh point, we get the inside linebacker in. Center overplays it. Doesn't need to be that far, but he brings the backside linebacker downhill. His read key is fighting across into his gap where his aiming point is. So he's just going to replace that D tackle. He's just going to replace him. And when he replaces him, his path, he's brought that inside linebacker downhill into his guard, and now he can just go run and be an athlete. And once he does that, this is why we give them the ball, right? Because they go and do stuff like this and make all of us look really, really smart. So again, just to show you guys, make it really simple. Downhill, where's our aiming point? For us, it was going to be downhill into that backside A gap where the center's hip was, and then his eyes just read this guy. And if this guy's going to fall into the gap, then you cut back and replace it. So this would be a bend for us. And then same thing here, okay? We are going to run inside zone right. So you're going to see all of these guys going this way, right? We're going to leave him. He's the cornerback in this scenario. We don't have a receiver out here. We're a 3-by-1 over this way. But as we look at it, this is the running back's read key because he's going to get downhill. Hips and shoulders are going to bring these guys downhill. And then he's just going to read the flow. Just read the flow on his path and his aiming point. So you guys can see he's going to get downhill right there. All right, we're going to go front side mesh here. But you guys can see that his aiming point, this D tackle, is going to start to fight into his path. So he's just going to make the cutback, just the bend. Don't fight it. His cut may be a little bit deeper. You actually probably want your back to just nice and gradually ride this wave, if that makes sense. You don't want it to be too drastic. When you talk about the bend for your running backs in zone, you talk about getting to the back side. You want your running back to stay attached his own color as long as possible. So we want our running backs here to stay attached to his own color as long as possible, because ideally we want him running up the hash, even on the bend, right? Because the big plays, again, happen vertically down the field. And so for our running back here, everything is right. He does everything perfect. Now, I want to be picky and tell him that I like big plays, not small chunk plays, right? So I want him to stay attached to his color as long as possible, because you can tell your running backs, the longer they stay attached to their own color, the more space they give themselves away from other color, right? And that's just a really good example right here. As I pause this screen, if our running back stays attached to his color as long as he can, the next player is here instead of here. All right. You can talk to your running backs if you want to. I always use the phrase, make defenders tackle your butt, because you do all that squatting, you do all that running for a reason. Make them tackle the backside of you, because he's going to have to fall in here to make a play. But here, you're going to give him everything. You're going to give him a lot bigger shot, a lot more of a chance to tackle you than if you're here and he's got to fall in to make an arm tackle. All right? Defensive coaches get that. That's not a good, you would rather your defender square your guys up than try to tackle from behind them at a really bad angle. And so just a good example of that. Now, again, he's going to make, the running back's going to make me look really smart here. But ideally, this play could be really, really big if you teach your running backs, hey, great read, nice and easy, stay attached to your color as long as possible. No need to run anywhere. Stay attached to your color as long as possible, and then get vertical, because that big play is right there. Same type of thing here, guys. All right, let's go ahead and skip some of this stuff here. Get to the end. All right, we're going to run inside zone right. So you guys will see here, double teams here, backside. The running back wants to get downhill through that hip. That's his read right there. So just do opposite of what he does. And if you're not sure, run straight. So right here, nice and easy. Now, this is an example of the back is probably like, I'm not really sure. This is a great double team right here, right? Like this is ideally what you want to see from your offensive line right here in double teams. He's probably still a little tall, but all he needs to do now is stay attached here, right? Just press. Now, the guy carrying the ball is a lot better athlete than me, right? He probably can feel this guy and he wants to get to the back door, but you see what happens, guys, all right? If you guys can see, all right, this is where the center's foot is, all right? That's the line of scrimmage. The back is going to make the cut from this line here. So he's about 3 yards from his offensive line. When I talked about those 5 keys to teaching your running back zone running, one of them is to press the line of scrimmage before you make a cut. This is the reason why, because this linebacker is going to match the running back. So you guys can already see his hips are starting to flow a little bit, right? All he's got to do is press and run to his aiming point here, and he can bring this guy downhill. Now, he may want to cut it back. That's fine. It's a lot easier to run the ball when in slow motion. But because he's so quick to make that cut right there, that linebacker can make the play over the top before getting attached to his offensive lineman. So again, press into your color as long as you can, then make your cut wherever that's going to be. But like I said, it's a lot easier to run the ball when I'm playing the film in slow motion. Any questions on any of that stuff, guys, before I get to outside zone? Any questions on inside zone, on your read keys, on what you really want to teach your backs, how you want your backs to get downhill, and really how they fit into the inside zone scheme? Again, it's so important to teach those guys in inside zone what their read key is, It could be front side, it could be backside, depending on what kind of team you are. And then why it's so important for them to press the line of scrimmage downhill to bring that second level to their blockers. Because the quicker they are side to side or somewhere else, the quicker the defense will match them, and the offensive linemen will have to get off their track and try to chase, which is not what we want. Any questions on that stuff?
No, coach. Thank you.
Cool. All right. We can go to some outside zone now and talk a little bit about outside zone. Now, I have to say, guys, I'm really biased. Outside zone is my favorite play. It is my favorite run play of all time. And so I could talk about this forever. That's why I think inside zone's great. It's a great play. More people run inside zone than outside zone. And the reason people don't run outside zone is it's a tough play to run. It's a tough play to teach. But I think adding outside zone to an offense makes you really dangerous for a couple different reasons. One, it makes your play action game explode. You can run your boot game off of it. You can run downhill or down the field play action. It allows you to run double moves with your receivers down the field because this play action takes a little bit longer, but the play action is also drastic, right? Like the ball, if you guys can think of Peyton Manning a couple years ago, if you guys saw any of that Peyton Manning stuff when he was at the Colts, if you didn't, go to YouTube, type in Peyton Manning outside zone, and he sticks the ball out there. And literally it felt like the ball was out there for 3 to 4 seconds. What linebacker isn't going to react to that, right? And then the running back fakes the clamp, and next thing you know, he's just resetting himself for a deep ball down the field. So that's a couple reasons why I really, really do like outside zone. But I also think this is just, it's such an easy play. And if you teach it well, it's like 4 yards. Just because the play itself is just so tough for defenders. But anyways, that's my bias. There's my soapbox for outside zone. But the aiming point of your running back is going to be the end man on the line of scrimmage, right? So if you just have a tackle, it's going to be the tackle. If you have a tight end attached, it'll be that tight end. So his angle could change a little bit depending on where your end of your line of scrimmage is. The point of outside zone is to create stretch, to create splits in the defense. This is a north hitting play. We are north and south hitting play. This isn't what you would think of like your traditional sweep or toss. This is going to be a vertical play. It's going to be an A gap to B gap play. Those gaps just may be extended 3 to 5 yards to the side, to the front side of the play, if that makes sense. For us, outside zone and coaching the offensive line, I wanted to cut the backside down. So I was going to cut our offensive linemen. You guys will see some of that in clips. The reason is it creates big gaps on the backside of the defense. The defense has to put their hands down and take a pause. They can't just run down the line of scrimmage and chase the play. That's one of the reasons I like doing that. That's an NFL thing. Those guys in the NFL do that kind of stuff. And then you create an outside zone. You can create some semi-double teams with your offensive linemen, but it makes it a little bit of an easier read for your guys that are covered and uncovered. If you're uncovered, you're just looking to overtake the next D lineman. If you're covered, you're looking to run through his play side shoulder. And so I'll talk a little bit more of that when I get to the film. But
Coach?
Keys. Yeah, go ahead.
You say you aim for the last guy on the line of your team, so tackle or tight end. Do you attack inside foot, outside foot? I guess I would say outside foot because it's even more of an angle. So
right, correct.
The linebacker tends
outside
to
hip.
More. Is that what you also do?
Yeah,
outside
we
hip.
talked about attacking that outside hip of the in man line of scrimmage. So we wanted our running backs, just to keep it simple, like I said, our aiming point and inside the zone with the backside hip of the center. So to keep it kind of uniform, we just said front side hip or play side hip of the end man on the line of scrimmage. And then I'll talk about the keys for the running backs. You know, you can talk about this phrase with your running backs in any zone play or anytime they have to read somebody. I always tell our running backs, trust your eyes first, then your gut. Too many guys want to talk about instincts, and when we start talking about instincts with running back, that usually means they make a weird kind of cut because they feel the defense. So I tell our guys, trust your eyes first. Trust what you're, and then let your gut take over of where you need to go after that. And so in outside zone, we're going to read the last D lineman with his hand in the ground. Again, we did that because the teams that we played, anytime that we got a guy that was standing up outside the defensive end, 95% of the time he was going to play contain and push everything back. But that's not a great read for the running back. And so we were going to read the guy with his hand in the ground. And then his second key was the interior D lineman. And I'll talk about that. That one's not hard. That's the gut part of it, right? Like if the guy's flowing over the top, cut it behind him. If the guy's not there, just keep running straight, kind of a deal. But really, you just want to press that aiming point. And so I'll talk about the keys. It's a little bit easier when I get to the film too. But his first read with his eyes, everything is about movement, though, and just kind of seeing where he goes. If the defensive end doesn't want to get reached, don't try to outrun him. Get ready to stick your foot in the ground. I always say on step 3, you know, your third step, that puts you on your outside foot to get vertical on your third step. If he doesn't want to get reached, get vertical. But if the defensive end does get reached right away, press your path, right? Not that we're going to run outside, but we're just going to press our path downhill at our aiming point. So let me go ahead. I'll get to the film. I think this is a good way to understand it. So we're going to run outside zone left here. All right. So our read is that defensive end. Again, this is a good example why we didn't want to read him, because we knew he was going to push the play back in. So let's read this defensive end. Pass, shoulders, everything. When I pause it here, it's a great look from our running back. But that defensive end doesn't want to get reached, right? But the tackle reaches him right here. You guys can see he goes ahead and he gets him, right? So what I tell it, the running back here isn't quite sure. Like the tackle reaches him, but he doesn't want to get reached. Press your path. His aiming point is that hip. If nothing gets him off that hip, if he doesn't really think anything needs to get him off that hip, just attack the hip. And this is how outside zone should look, right? I mean, ideally, this is how every run play should look, right? If he runs that way, he should be able to go that way. But he never has to come off his path, because everybody does a really nice job here of attacking and blocking who they need to. He presses his path, and he's able to just run a nice, easy way. And again, this is why we give these guys the ball, right? Because he's going to be able to make that guy miss in a really small space and get more yards. So again, if nothing gets our guys off of their path, they don't need to get off their path. But if that guy defensive end doesn't want to get reached initially and he just starts running out there, look to cut the ball up. This example is going to be one of not only just a key, but what happens when our running backs get vertical, and how they just run through arm tackles. Now, before I play this was a scheme play. We are going to run outside zone with these guys. These guys are going to block out, and we are going to read him with the quarterback. So it's going to look a little bit funny on film, but the zone part of it, the outside zone part of it's really good. So as we look at it here, from the gun, I haven't talked a lot about gun stuff, so make sure if you guys have gun questions, we can always talk about that afterwards. But our running back is going to come through the mesh, and then after he gets through the mesh with the quarterback, he wants to start to bend ever so slightly back down to the line of scrimmage. We don't want the running back in the gun to stay flat, and we don't want this angle. We want him to start to bend back down, get as close as he can, to a 45-degree angle back downhill. Now, he probably is not going to get to that because of just the natural mesh point and for us, but we want him to start to bend to attack the line of scrimmage. Again, we want him to press into the line of scrimmage as much as we can. So to do that, he can't stay parallel for that long. So here, let me go ahead and skip. So you guys can see we're going to read that backside D tackle here. That's why we're not blocking him. I think we get pretty lucky here because they're going to bring the Mike linebacker. But again, you can see the hips and the shoulders with the offensive line match pretty well. He's starting to bend back down. Now, yeah, you guys are probably like, Coach, this guy's got his hand up. He does. But he's the defensive end. In film, we knew that he was going to be the defensive end, if that makes sense. But you guys can see, look at him. He doesn't want to get reached. See how he's just fighting to get out there? So the back automatically knows, all right, I'm cutting this up vertically. So now he knows he's going to get vertical. And this is a nice, easy path. Again, I think we get pretty lucky here. That's why I like showing this clip, though, right? Who doesn't like showing these clips? Because the Mike linebacker blitzes the backside A gap. And then here, this is why we talk about getting vertical. We've got a block here. We've got a decent angle here, but he's going to whiff. So most guys will try to make a cut behind this or maybe try to set this up. Just tell your running backs, just run. Run to this pylon or run to that pylon as fast as you can. Because most of the time, if they're trying to fight off blocks or they're trying to run over the top of blocks, the way that they tackle running backs is by running backs stopping their feet and trying to do something fancy. Just run. And guys will fall off of them more than they ever know and score touchdowns. And so I think that's something that's really important. That's why I like showing this clip. Not only do we get lucky scheme-wise, but here's another gun clip, guys, but a good example of really wanting to press downhill and read that first key. So this is our key for our running back. He's going to decide, all right, through the mesh, initially, what does this guy do? Does he not want to get reached, or does my tackle reach him and I need to press my aiming point? Now I'll talk about the second read, which is the interior D tackle. That's the linebacker's blocking. So the running back's going to make his first read here. That's his eyes read, right? That his eyes are going to tell him exactly what he sees there. His second read is that D tackle, and that's his gut read. Just kind of feel that out. He should feel that flow. If this guy goes way out here, cut it up underneath him. If this guy stays in here, press the angle out here, and then the ball can cut up here. If that makes sense? And you guys it becomes clear. This is a really clear clip with that. So back through the mesh point, start to attack downhill. You guys can see him start to get his shoulders. Defensive end doesn't want to get reached. Now you guys can see, look at that. Look at big 68 here. All right. See how far that flow is happening right now? The back should now start to get behind the center and go to attack number 2 north. Get vertical here. He's going to go ahead and get all the way out here, and the play's going to get strung out, which is not what we want from the running back. We want him to say, okay, I'm not getting out there. There's that heavy flow. Stick your foot in the ground and get north on this. So you guys will see he's going to get strung out a little bit here. If he was to stick his foot in the ground after step 3, so once he gets the ball 1, 2, You know, he's starting to gallop a little bit. But right now, he gets the ball, and he already knows this guy's going outside, right? He should be able to start to feel that flow right there. That foot, he should already know. Start to get up behind him now. His shoulders and his path have done a great job of bringing that linebacker to him. 6. Now go attack the safety here and get vertical. Play-wise, scheme-wise, so as you guys are watching, we are going to block him out here. We're going to block him here, run outside zone this way, and then through. The reason we did that, guys, is this team that you guys see on film in black won the Division III national title this past year. Their defense is unreal good. Their D-line is really, really good. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to give their D-line some different looks, give their defense some different looks. You guys can see this D tackle is going to attack our guard square instead of running down the line of scrimmage to chase outside zone. And then we're going to get a nice, easy trap back block for our tight end. And that's why this is the reason why we blocked it this way, because you guys can see that big lane. The back's late to the read. If he reads this thing really, really well, and like he should, like he's drilled forever, we should be one-on-one with that safety. So I think with outside zone, scheme-wise, you can marry it to a lot of different things that you do, depending on what you want offense. You can marry it to some of those things and give it some different spice to allow it to be pretty successful. You know, and again, you guys can see what the running back does when he finally gets to 2. And if he's there a little bit earlier to the safety, you've got a really, really good play. And you as a coach are feeling really excited about what's happening. So this is a really good example of now your aiming point goes from the tackle to the tight end. So his aiming point should be a little bit wider here. His read is still him, not him. So he gets reached initially here. That's a really clear read. Boom, he gets reached. Press your aiming point. Press, press, press. Now our back footwork's not great here. Essentially, you want him to lead with that left foot and run out to that aiming point. You guys can watch his feet. Not great here. Not great at all. Gets a little bit late, gets a little jumpy. But because he stays on his path, the guard here can look to overtake this, but gets a little bit behind. The center ends up, or the tackle ends up passing it, but the back's able to stay on his path. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Make defenders tackle your butt, right? Just that way he can run through that tackle there. And again, this is just a really good example of what it should look like attacking that. That's the read. That's a clear read to run right down the pipe right there. Angles are really good because our shoulders and our hips can match. And then the back, make guys tackle your butt and get in the second level. Any questions so far, guys? I got a couple more film clips. I could talk. I know I'm getting close to an hour, Coach, so I could talk about this forever. So I want to make sure that I do get to any. So why don't we do this? I'll play this last clip here, and then I'll stick around, guys. I'll stick on the meeting as long as you guys want. If you want to talk scheme more, if you guys want to talk more specifics. But this is going to be my last clip here. It's a little bit of a different look for outside zone. The quarterback here is going to be our ball carrier. His aiming point is still going to be the in man on the line of scrimmage, but his read stays the same. There's his first read. There's his second read. The back is going to leave early, just so you guys know, but we're still going to run outside zone left. So quarterback here, back's going to leave early. Again, a scheme-wise, a thing we did to get 10 out of the box. And then you guys can see 97 doesn't want to get reached. 94 running down the line of scrimmage. This is why we cut the backside here. And then once he makes that read, this is the read, the last clip, the running back didn't get there. This clip, he does get there to that backside behind the center, gets vertical, guys trying to tackle his butt, gets vertical, great angles, and now he's in here, and now he's in the second level for a nice big play. You guys can see because he sticks to the path initially, you guys can see his shoulders. You see 29 go to set the edge and be the free runner alley player. He gets displaced and gets to our tackle, and now we can get vertical, and that's a big run play for you right there. You know, and who knows, maybe you're able to get lucky with this tackle here, and now you're really in business. But again, you can get creative with outside zone, but whoever is carrying the ball, make sure that you keep them to those keys so that they can be a great runner with the football. And because it doesn't matter who's carrying it, if they stick to those keys, then they can definitely be successful. Any questions on any of that stuff, guys? Again, I'll leave that as the last clip to show you guys. Any questions, ask away. It doesn't matter what it is. You can talk scheme. We did some fun things with outside zone this year that you guys see. Like I said, we brought people opposite side to run some split zone stuff. Here, the back's going to leave early, and we'll run it with the quarterback. What questions?
Coach, what I'm interested in, maybe the top 3 drills you do to improve your zone running ability.
For sure. The number one is really putting a coach. So I'm gonna, like I said, guys, I don't have any film from it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw it up. I got my notebook here to draw it up for you guys. Is you want to take your running back and then simulate the read for him. So whether you're running inside zone or outside zone, you want to put a coach with a bag and you want to give your running back the read. So I'll talk about inside zone first, and then give him a second level player, and I'll talk about that. So what you want to do is you can set up a drill that looks kind of similar to this guy. So you have your running back here, then you would have your read key, whoever this is, just a coach with a bag, and then a second level defender. And what you want to do is you want to get your running back downhill, and the coach gives him a read, right? So the coach is either going to move one way or the other, and then he makes a nice cut off that into the second level. And then you give him somebody to miss at the second level, because you always kind of want to add that element into your running back drills, is giving him somebody to miss at some point to work on a certain move and get really comfortable making moves and things like that. That's my first one. Is I call it our key drill, right? And if you do it with outside zone, you just put that coach outside of him, right, where your aiming point would be. So instead of downhill, you put him on your path. That would be my number one inside zone drill. The second one really is just a mesh point drill with the quarterbacks. So you're going to run your mesh with a quarterback. So we used to call it run tracks. You can call it mesh period, whatever it is. And then what you do is you get them to press a certain point. So if I were to show you guys the drill here, right? You're running with your quarterback. I'll just draw it up out of the pistol. And then you give them a cone. And your coach stands at that certain cone. So I know, guys, this is real old school here because I'm drawing on paper, but you're going to have him, it can go right, it can go left, it can go out, whatever it is. And then you want to give him a cone that your coach is standing at, that he wants to run to that cone. Again, what that does, guys, is that simulates pressing his aiming point. You don't want these guys to get too cutty too early. So you want to press that cone, and then the coach gives them a direction, right? And you can do one of a couple things with it. One is you jump cut them, so you make them cut to that square, right? So it's like they press in the line of scrimmage. Things are kind of jumbled, and they're going to jump cut horizontally to get vertical. Or you give them a quick cut, right, where they just kind of stick their foot in the ground real quick and get thin to that, if that makes sense. A nice easy cut, and then run and burst. Again, anything you that you want to do with your running backs to simulate zone stuff, you want to get them into the line of scrimmage as much as possible to get it in their minds that they want to press as much as they can. So that's another one. And then another one is that I like to do is a similar type thing, a read drill, right? But you've already given them the read, and then you tell them what kind of cut you want to do. Very similar to that last one, but instead of making them react, you're just working on specific cuts. So like a jump cut per se, where you want them to work horizontal. So you're going to give like an agile bag, a nice square bag, and then the coach stands in between it there, and the running back's going to come downhill, right? And you give them a direction already, and then what they're going to do is they're going to jump cut into that direction and then get vertical on that, if that makes sense, right? So same type of thing, but you're just working a very specific cut that you want them to get really comfortable with, you know, because again, everybody who's ever carried the football or anybody that's ever dribbled a basketball or kicked a soccer ball around, right? You always know that you've got a million things you can do with it, but you want to work on 2 to 3 things that you get really, really good at. So as a running back coach, it's really your job to get them certain cuts that they feel really comfortable with, that they can just go to again and again and again, and they feel really confident in how their body feels in those cuts. So it just becomes second nature. Boom, jump cut, get vertical, right? Jump cut, stick your outside foot in the ground, get vertical. And so if you have a really good athlete, when he gets really comfortable with those things, you watch it happen really, really quick. And so those are 3 drills. Again, a lot of it has to do with the read, pressing your aiming point, and then making the appropriate cut. I'm always a fan of adding second level defenders to make them make somebody miss again. That again is more about feeling comfortable with their body and carrying the football, and having certain moves they know what they can go with and know how they feel, but also try new things out. So those would be my 3 drills. I have a bunch of YouTube clips of drills of other coaches doing drills that I can give you, Coach, if you wanted to add to the notes or anything like that to your YouTube channel that I go to, that I think are pretty good, and pretty good by really good in training your running backs. A lot of drill work with your running backs, guys, should be about body movement and a lot of cuts, right? A lot of jumping, moving off one foot. Anytime you get them to stick one foot in the ground and they got to go a different direction, whether it be vertical or side to side, should always be incorporated into your running back drills. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Always incorporate that kind of stuff, because that is 75% of their game, is sticking one foot in the ground and being able to change directions. Great question, Coach. What other questions, guys?
Yeah, that sounds great. You offered so much insight. Yeah, coaches, do we have any other questions? I don't think so, but I really liked how you break down the inside-outside run game for the running back position. I think there are not many presentations I saw here in Germany and overall that are so in detail. So you did a really great job, Coach, offering that inside view for the zone running game. And I think all of us could take a lot of insights with ourselves to implement into our coaching of the running back position. So amazing job, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Thanks for hanging out. Again, you guys can find me on Twitter. It's at Coach Hill _24. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I love talking this kind of stuff. And again, I think this is fun when you get to talk about the running backs, because not a lot of people talk about them, and they are so important. If you guys are ever looking to really dive into more zone, especially the outside zone, the wide zone, Go look up Alex Gibbs on YouTube. You can find some really old videos of Coach Gibbs. He is actually the godfather of outside zone. It was his baby. And so I think there's some great YouTube clips of him teaching outside zone, and he talks a ton about the running back play and how important it is. And so thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me hang out with you guys, and hopefully you took something away.
Yeah, of course, Coach. So thank you very much. And
yeah, thanks for your time, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and let's have our fingers crossed that there will be a season, maybe this fall or next spring. We do whatever we can to educate ourselves, and thank you to help us to grow the game over here, Coach. Have a nice day.
Yeah, guys. No problem. Have a great rest of your day, great night. And again, I hope to talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, goodbye, Coach.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. See, I got to unshare my screen here too, don't I? I'm the host. Let's see. Did you get that? My screen unshared there. Let's see.
Oh, you have to end the meeting.
Let's see. Oh, you know what? There we go. It doesn't want to let me. Clearly, it wants me to hang out with you guys even more.